Feeling alone, empty, isolated, being physically alone are feelings and sensations and experiences that we can all feel at some point in our lives. The question is, how do we face loneliness that appears out of a sudden without any warning? How do we get out of it? Welcome to Clichés Reinvented. Reinventing life's cliches, a space where I'm going to share information, thoughts, and insights to help us both live alive in consciousness. These are reflections that have helped me with my personal growth and to live happier and more conscious. This is why now I want to share them with you. I want to thank you for being here today and taking the time to listen to this podcast. Thank you for deciding to be here with me and with yourself. Loneliness can become a taboo subject because we don't talk about it very often. It is often difficult to accept that we feel alone, or we can even feel embarrassed to admit it because all we see on social networks and social media is how everyone is living their best lives, sharing with many people, and we just think this is how people are living 24/7. But the truth is that feeling lonely is very, very normal. Anyone may at one point feel this way. Here, I speak from my own experience, being completely alone in a country that is not mine, without my family or lifelong friends by my side. However, loneliness can also be felt when you are surrounded by many people, and I have experienced both. I was one of those who was waiting for the day, for the moment when I will graduate from high school, go to another city, start my life from scratch, living alone, making my own decisions, living the life of my dreams, sharing my life with people whom I love, and having that adult independence which we think all adults have, which might not always be the case. But however, among so many dreams and aspirations, there was a small detail that I was overlooking, and that despite of the fact that I've heard of it before, I didn't believe back then that it would be a huge challenge in my life. And it was, in a few words, how alone I could feel and I would feel. I think I'm not the only one who has felt alone in life despite being surrounded by many people or knowing a lot of people. And it's funny because, actually, from a personal point of view, my contact with my parents, for example, is quite frequent. We call each other almost every single day. I count with very beautiful people by my side that I will not hesitate, will not once, to call or send them a message at any time to feel closer to them. However, I live alone. Well, with my roomie, but in the end, alone. Each of us has its own life. And it happens that I had always heard in these motivational talks where they said that life is a lonely road. But I was against it because I didn't felt alone. In fact, in the year and a half that I've been living in Germany, only twice I felt the loneliness that has caused me true sadness. And I was against feeling like this. I did not want it to accept it. I always kept in mind the company of God, my parents, angels. Yes, here we talk openly about what we live and how we live. However, after feeling really alone, despite seeing people every day and talking to my parents every single day, as said before, little by little, I was learning to accept the role of loneliness in my life. And even today, I am little by little learning to see her as a part of life. Until the day might come, and when I spend my days 24/7 with someone, which is not the reality at this moment of time. And I'm sure that when that day arrives, I will look for my moments of being alone with myself. So everyone can feel alone at some point, and it happens that if we don't know how to channel this loneliness in the best way, it can end up having a negative impact on our lives. Unconsciously, we relate loneliness with something negative, with something bad for us, but it doesn't necessarily have to become a nightmare, let's say. We live in a society that has not normalized being alone that much because the idea that's always been sold, or at least in Colombia or in my environment, is that happiness is found when you're surrounded by family, friends, or in love with a partner. And yes, this is true, but happiness can also be found being alone with our own company. Loneliness is a challenge that must be faced, and as said before, whether we want it or not, it is going to be present. It is going to present itself in our life. It is going to be present in life. The issue is that we must accept it, because when we do not accept that we feel alone, when we pretend that everything is fine and that we do not feel no type of discomfort, this can lead us to make bad decisions, not value our time, not valuing our time, sharing it with people who not contribute to our life, just because we don't want to feel that loneliness. We don't want to be alone or waste our time on actions that don't bring us nothing good, just because being alone terrifies us, and actions such as drinking or taking drugs because of depression as an escape route to what we are really feeling. When the idea of writing about loneliness came to my mind, I wasn't really having a good time. In fact, it wasn't long ago. Despite being surrounded by people, my life was somewhat monotonous, let's say. I didn't met that much with my close friends, no partner, and despite the fact that I talked to my parents every day and I kept in mind the company of God and my angels and everything, I still felt alone. I came home and I was alone. I left class and I was alone. And despite the fact that it has been like that all the time since I arrived in Germany, it hadn't hit me as hard as those days. Because I didn't have a very good time internally. I did my reflection process and my grounding to really understand what I was going through and reflect on what I could draw and conclude from all those negative sensations that I was feeling at the moment. That's why today I want to share with you 8 insights of loneliness that are worth taking into account in our lives. Number 1, it's normal to feel lonely. Sometimes we think that feeling alone is the worst thing that can happen to us. But if you think about it and you are going through a situation like mine, in which we have already left our home, our city, our country, we live alone, well, I mean, loneliness is more than normal. Feeling alone is part of the journey. And not only this, when you start working on your things, your goals, your purposes, this time of solitude comes. It always comes. The important thing is to remember that in reality, we are not alone. First, we have ourselves, if we are aware of it, and we have God by our side. I repeat, I am not mentioning God as a synonym for religion, but just as that connection we feel with something superior, whom we cannot see, but we can feel inside us. Being able to count on this permanent company makes us feel safe in solitude. We are not afraid of being alone because, in the end, we know that we are not. Number 2, you can meet a lot of people and still feel lonely. In the time I've been living in another country, I've met many people, and I suppose this always happens. One gets to know a lot of new people, many with whom you understand yourself, and many who just pass by. And despite meeting people you get along very well with and having many friends and good people by your side, loneliness is something that you will always experience in adult life. And it will be more obvious if you live alone despite having many friends, having family, having people you love within the reach of a call, loneliness can come at any time. And it's not that we don't value our friendship, it's just that it just happens sometimes, and it's normal. It's normal to feel isolated. It's normal and necessary for these moments of loneliness to come. Number third, that feeling of loneliness will not be forever. Just like everything in life, nothing is forever. Everything comes and goes. Being alone can often be difficult, and it is a challenge, as I have already mentioned several times. However, it will not last forever. We can avoid the bitterness and sadness that this feeling can cause us just by realizing that it will not be forever. That sooner or later the day will come when we recognize and appreciate the permanent spiritual company that we have next to us and the physical company of others. With this, I move on to the next point, number 4. When we have been alone, when we know what it is to feel truly lonely, not having anyone to talk to, we learn to value the company of others. Just as loneliness will not last forever, the company of others won't either. For this very reason, it is important to value it. Value every moment we share with someone we love or with people who bring well being into our lives. In my case, it happened to me that when I lived with my parents back in Colombia, I didn't value their company that much or the time I had with them because I spent it locked in my room doing other things, and I did not realize the blessing I had. Waking up every day and being able to give my mom and my dad a hug, being on the other side of the world without being able to have this opportunity to share a physical space with them, has made me value every moment I have with them. Learn to value their presence and their company. It's funny, but now, living on the other side of the world, I feel way closer to my parents than when we lived under the same roof. Unfortunately, we human beings have to learn like this, the hard way. And that, if we even manage to really learn. The same thing happens with my friends and with the people I like. If I am sharing my time with them, I am with them. My thoughts are there in the conversation I'm having. My attention is in the present. I am not somewhere else. In fact, I even forget that my phone exists. And this is because I value their company. I've learned to value the time that I can share with someone, appreciate it, and it really fills you up when you are able to really be present and to value the company of others. Besides that, without realizing it, when you are truly present with the other person, truly genuine relationships begin to be created and not false friendship out of necessity or because you or they don't want to be alone. Here comes number 5, and it is that loneliness can lead us to waste our time with people who do not really make us feel better and do not bring out the best version of us. I repeat, we must be careful and not fall into harmful relationships for the simple fact of the need to be with someone. This counts for a toxic couple who are only there out of necessity and because of the fear of being alone, or with friendships that do not bring anything good for us, that humiliate us, do not let us be ourselves, and lead us to make bad decisions. But we continue to be there only for the fear of staying with no friends, alone. 6. When being in solitude has been valued, when we understand that we shouldn't, because of necessity, be with anyone, the right people coming to your life, people with whom you genuinely connect, people with whom you feel that time does not pass, people with whom you feel comfortable, with whom you can have infinite conversations or silences that do not become uncomfortable. It's very nice to be able to have this type of people by your side. And just as you realize it, other people realize that you and your thoughts are present too. And even more when you have learned the value the, and even more when you have learned to value the company of others. 7. We are not alone in this. We all feel lonely at some point. We are not the only ones on the planet with this type of problems. Many people at this very moment may be having the same problem as us, or had or have had it in the past. That's why it is important to talk openly about these issues, in this case loneliness, because it happens to all of us. And it's not that we don't value having friends or having family, it's just that sometimes one feels alone and that's it. However, it may happen too that this loneliness feeling has a deeper cause that perhaps should be treated with psychological help or therapy. But sometimes this feeling just comes and that's it. Emotions come and go, they're just part of life's learning. Last but not least, number 8, we must learn to go out and learn from all these experiences that cause us certain discomfort. Learn to leave them and find a way to channel them. Because even though they are normal, it is not normal to stay there in the hole of loneliness and sadness forever. Remember that we are talking about loneliness, not solitude. The loneliness that lowers our energy and gives us a feeling of emptiness and sadness. What really matters is, what do I do with this feeling? What do I do to get out of it? What do I learn? Take advantage of these moments to reflect, to be with us, to try new things on our own, value our own company and the one of others. When trying to avoid loneliness on TikTok or Instagram or YouTube, Netflix, whatever, unconsciously, so we don't have to think we are alone and avoid the reality we live in, we're just extending this emotion. Whether we want it or not, it's there. We just don't want to see it or face it. And in reality, we don't want to face ourselves. Therefore, on the contrary, these moments of loneliness must be welcomed, which we can and have the power to turn into moments of solitude. For example, do not stay in the theory and move on to the actual practice. Some of the activities I do now, if I feel alone, is, for example, going to a cafe, writing. Sometimes I start even dancing alone in my room. I do things that just make me feel good. I draw, although lately I haven't done it to be honest, but still, or just calling my parents, my friends, my family, etc. And little by little, these sensations are channeled. Little by little, each one finds himself, getting to know who we truly are and discovering how we enjoy and live our own life too. In the end, we have to remember and never forget that we will never be, nor we are truly alone. Thank you for arriving to the end of this episode. Hope you really enjoy it as much as I enjoyed writing it and sharing it with you guys. Hope you have an excellent day, and not forget to follow Clichés Reinvented on Instagram, clichés underscore re underscore invented. Have a really nice day.